Okay. So, hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Mayank, and this is Arjun Natarajan. We're doing part two of our webinar, which is the interplay of the Epidemic Diseases Act and the Disaster Management Act. Now, pursuant to the part one, lot of you all showed a lot of support and got in touch with us. And to begin with, we are very thankful to you for that. And for all those people who are going to come in later, or who are even going to watch the video at a later point in time, we are very thankful to all of you. Secondly, a lot of requests came in pertaining to the measures initiated by the central government, right? And so that will remain the focus of today's today's webinar. Having said that, what has also happened is that during this interim period, a lot of people also got in touch with us with respect to the privacy concerns raised by Zoom, and thereafter the advisory that was issued by MHA, and a lot of people told us that MHA is prohibiting us from using Zoom, so why have the lectures on Zoom at all? So we decided to bust that myth as well. Arjun, would you please share the MHA advisory?
Yes.
Unfortunately, on account of irregular reporting, by various media outlets, this has also created sort of a fear against Zoom, as much as we are not trying to promote Zoom in any manner. But we figured that we may as well apprise you of everything. Arjun, would you like to expand on this, please?
Yes. Those of you who have seen part one would have definitely seen that the approach that we adopt is as educative as possible, in the sense that we try our best to avoid taking any side whatsoever, and we just present whatever is there officially on record. So therefore, it is not something like holding a candle for Zoom. If Zoom has to burn down, it will burn down. That reminds me of the saying, if Rome has to burn down, it will burn down. So now we can say, if Zoom has to burn down, it will burn down. That apart, one more aspect is that it appears that a letter petition has been made to the Honorable CJI expressing privacy concerns insofar as Zoom is concerned. I think this letter petition was made yesterday. So we'll have to see what is it that the Honorable Supreme Court does insofar as Zoom is concerned. However, coming back to the things that are there on record and in place, the screen that I've shared, that shows a press release of 16th of April 2020, which is just day before yesterday. So on the 16th of April, this press release was uploaded, which acquainted me as to an advisory which has been issued by MHA insofar as security concerns of the Zoom platform. Now, when I went through this, this press release, it took me to a certain link. Now, when I access that link, a certain advisory came to my notice. I went through it very carefully, and in fact, it puts in place the suggested settings that we have to make in our respective Zoom apps, or if you are going to use it from the website. It's a very detailed advisory, and we are following it. Insofar as this webinar is concerned, those settings have been made. I think that's why passwords, etc., were requested for. That apart, I would request all of you to kindly go through this this advisory, and till the time Zoom is functioning, please conduct whatever webinars that you are conducting, meetings that you are conducting, keeping in mind the norms which have been laid down in the advisory. Of course, this interaction between Mayank and me is not to give a crash course on what are the norms which have been suggested by way of an advisory. So I shall not go through what are the settings which have been made. But I'm just scrolling past so that you will get an idea as to what it is. In fact, it has two distinct sections. One section talks about security configuration when you are using Zoom through the website. And then you have another distinct section, which is your section 2, which deals with security configuration through app. So if you're using it through an app on the phone or on a computer, then what are the settings that you have to make? There are some particular settings. You all, it's largely self-explanatory. So I would suggest that you all go through this advisory. And other than this advisory, I would suggest you all to go through 2 more documents, because we are adopting an educative approach. So the maximum that can be conveyed to you, whether we are discussing or not, if we are able to tell you that there are such things in existence, if those things interest you, you are most welcome to pursue that interest. You could also take a look at the advisories dated 6th of February 2020 and the 30th of March 2020. These have been issued by the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team, which is called the CERT-IN. So these are additional advisories that you all could go through insofar as security concerns of Zoom is concerned.
So, Arjun, coming to first off, could you please mute all participants, if that's even a possibility, or just individually, if you could just mute.
They all are muted.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so Arjun, coming to the crux of today's interaction, right? Now, you remember that in the last session, we had spoken about NDMA's role, correct? NDMA's role in issuing, directions with respect to the lockdown. That was, of course, 1.0. Now, my understanding is that once again NDMA has issued another direction, right, which has subsequently led MHA to issue one. Would you please tell the viewers on a little bit on that?
Yes. The first round of lockdown that we had, let us call it lockdown 1.0, and the one that we are having now, let us call it lockdown 2.0. So lockdown 1.0 starts with an order which was issued by the NDMA on the 24th of March. Now, immediately after that order, the Ministry of Home Affairs issued another order which had an annexure in which there were some guidelines, and then those guidelines underwent amendments from time to time, rather modifications from time to time. 25th of March, 27th of March, 3rd of April, 4th of April, and then on 10th of April. 10th of April was the last modification. And you'll also remember that the consolidated version incorporating all these modifications were uploaded from time to time. Now, coming back to the point, lockdown 1.0 started with an NDMA order dated the 24th of March. So essentially, the genesis lies in an order passed by the NDMA. Now, insofar as lockdown 2.0 is concerned, once again, there is an order which is passed by the NDMA. I'll straight away take you to that order. So on the 14th of April, there is an order which is issued by the National Disaster Management Authority. The screen that I have shared, it shows that particular order which was issued by the NDMA. I shall skip the first paragraph. Let us straight away go to the second paragraph of this. Considering the fact that strict social distancing measures need to be implemented for a further period to contain the spread of COVID-19, the national authority, that is the NDMA, in exercise of powers under Section 6(2)(I) of the Disaster Management Act, directs the ministries, departments of Government of India, state governments and state authorities to continue the same measures for social distancing up to 3rd May 2020. In this regard, the guidelines/orders issued by NEC, that is the National Executive Committee, shall continue to be applicable throughout the country. The authority further directs NEC to issue modifications. Now, emphasis is on modifications in the guidelines as necessary, keeping in view the need to contain the spread of COVID-19. So, lockdown 2.0 once again starts with another order which is issued by the NDMA, which is an order of 14th of April 2020. And after this order, the Ministry of Home Affairs issues an order of 14th of April. If you take a look at the third paragraph, I will skip the first two paragraphs. First paragraph gives the entire background. Second paragraph outlines the annexure and gives all those amendments going on till the 10th of April. I'll straight away come to the third paragraph. Whereas NDMA, after assessing the situation on COVID-19 epidemic, is satisfied that strict social distancing measures need to be implemented for a further period so as to effectively contain the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Whereas in exercise of the powers under section 6(2)(I) of the Disaster Management Act, NDMA has issued an order number such and such dated 14th of April, which is this order, which I had shown before a while. So there is a direct reliance on the NDMA order of 14th of April, which kickstarts lockdown 2.0. Within this order, the chairperson of NEC that was directed that existing lockdown measures be continued to be implemented in all parts of the country up to 3rd of May. And then the last paragraph. Whereas under directions of the aforesaid order of NDMA and in exercise of the powers conferred under section 10(2)(L) of the Disaster Management Act, the undersigned in his capacity as chairperson such and such hereby issues directions to all the concerned bodies, I am not reading all of that, that the lockdown measures, now I take a pause over here. If you remember, when I was examining the MHA's order of 24th of March, and especially the annexure to it, which contains the guidelines, I had emphasized that the second last and the last pages uses the phrase containment measures. And there was a good amount of discussion in part 1 as to how containment measures is what is to be strictly called, what has been initiated by the central government, whereas the Delhi government had issued a lockdown. However, I had also pointed out that with the passage of time, colloquially, we all are calling everything as a lockdown, so therefore it is being treated as a lockdown. Now, if you go on to see that insofar as MHA's order is concerned, this particular order, which ends up in the lockdown 2.0, in this order, the terminology which has been used is lockdown measures. So if you see the third line from the bottom, it goes on to say that hereby issues directions to all the concerned ministries, etc., that the lockdown measures stipulated in aforesaid consolidated guidelines of MHA for containment of COVID-19 epidemic in the country will continue to remain in force up to 3rd of May to contain the spread of COVID-19. So we will get past that distinction between containment measures and lockdown measures. Now that even the central government is calling it as lockdown measures, we shall call it lockdown. However, because there was a lockdown and there is a lockdown now which is currently subsisting, so we will call the present phase of the lockdown, which will go on till the 3rd of May, as lockdown 2.0, and the previous one, the lapsed phase, as lockdown 1.0, as much as the discussion will center around lockdown 2.0. Now, after this order is issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs on the 14th of April, which is premised on an NDMA order of the same date, that is 14th of April, the MHA writes letters to the union territories and to the central government, essentially giving this background that NDMA has passed an order, MHA has passed an order. I'll skip the first two paragraphs. Now, emphasis also on the third paragraph. This is a letter of 14th of April, which MHA has issued to the states and to the union territories. Paragraph 3. It is emphasized that as per the orders issued by MHA under the Disaster Management Act, the states and union territories cannot dilute restrictions imposed within the aforesaid guidelines. So this is like a strict reminder that you cannot dilute the guidelines which have been issued by the central government. And then paragraph 4 is of course self-explanatory, and it just builds on what paragraph 3 says. So the lockdown 2.0, which is subsisting as on date, is kick-started by an NDMA order of 14th of April, which is immediately followed by an MHA order of 14th of April. Now, you could compare the 14th of April MHA order with the 24th of March MHA order, which was passed initially. Why? Because the 24th of March MHA order did not have any list along with it. It was there in a separate annexure. Similarly, the 14th of April MHA order does not contain a list. It is contained in a separate annexure. Now that annexure comes into place by way of a 15th of April order which is passed by the Ministry of Home Affairs. So this is the 15th of April order which is passed by the Ministry of Home Affairs. I'm skipping a lot of paragraphs and I'm straight away coming to the third paragraph, which talks about selective application. So in lockdown 1.0, everything was applying across the board pan-India. Whereas in lockdown 2.0, there is a selective application. There is a concept of containment zones, which has been put in place. So therefore, paragraph 3 assumes importance. Whereas the consolidated revised guidelines will not apply in containment zones as demarcated by states, UTs, district administrations, if any new area is included in the category of a containment zone, which essentially means that if a certain area is not a containment zone, but subsequently it becomes a containment zone, then the activities allowed in that area till the time of its categorization as a containment zone will be suspended, except for those activities as are specifically permitted under the guidelines of the Health Ministry. With this order, detailed guidelines are put in place, which is essentially the counterpart of the annexure, which was to the MHA order of 24th of March. Now, the contents of this are largely self-explanatory, and things would get more boring than what they are as of now. So therefore, I won't read through them, but I will definitely highlight few things over here, like select permitted activities allowed with effect from 20th of April. So as I had said that lockdown 1.0 was pan-India. There were no relaxations. There was no selective applicability. But insofar as lockdown 2.0 is concerned, there are certain permitted activities which will come into force with effect from the 20th of April. And then those have been listed out. However, at this juncture, I must point out that soon after this came to be issued on the 15th of April, there was another order which was issued on the 15th of April, which essentially says that those activities which are listed out from paragraphs 5 to 20. So you can see paragraphs 5 to 20, and these paragraphs are coming under the heading select permitted activities. You won't find this in the modified annexure to lockdown 1.0, because there was no concept of select permitted activities. There everything was pan-India. Now, insofar as select permitted activities allowed with effect from 20th of April are concerned, you have within that paragraph 5, and then it goes on 5, 6, 7, so on. It goes on till paragraph 20. Now, insofar as these paragraphs are concerned, there is a subsequent order which is issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs on the same date, that is 15th of April. And that's a very interesting order, because it goes on to show the strategic approach which the central government has been adopting, which is quite commendable. The activities mentioned in the consolidated revised guidelines, paras 5 to 20, will not be permitted in containment zones within hotspots demarcated by the states, UTs, and district administrations as per guidelines of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Now, these guidelines of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare are important. It's almost a 21-page document. I shall be coming to that. So these are activities which are permitted. But then after 20th of April as well, these activities are not permitted insofar as the containment zones are concerned. And then within paragraph 3, you have a sub-paragraph 2. If any new area is included in the category of containment zone, the activities allowed in that area till the time of its categorization as a containment zone will be suspended, except for those activities which are specifically permitted under the consolidated revised guidelines. The activities allowed under the consolidated revised guidelines will be withdrawn immediately if any of the lockdown measures are violated. So it has checks and balances within it. So when we are reading the 15th of April guidelines, the guidelines have to be read along with the 15th of April order, which places an emphasis insofar as paras 5 to 20 is concerned. A lot of questions have arisen insofar as how the 15th of April guidelines have to be interpreted, because what I have at least been observing is that a lot of persons, especially business entities, they are reading the 15th of April guidelines. However, they are not taking a look at the subsequent 15th of April order, which starts on the note that with regard to the aforesaid order, the following is emphasized. So this is something which unfortunately persons are ignoring, but I'm sure that with the passage of time, especially after 20th of April, when these things actually start operating, people, I hope, would start reading the 15th of April guidelines along with the emphasized points which is there in a separate letter of 15th of April.
No, but Arjun, to add to this,
Yeah.
may I just also point out that this is not where this whole thing comes to an end. In fact, there is something more that got added on the 16th of April.
Yes.
If you, yes, because our understanding is that these were things which of course were not left out in the previous one, but then deliberations went on whether they had to be whether they had to be included or excluded, and after deliberations, right, few things, say for example under clause 6, right, collecting, harvesting and processing of minor forest produce, right, non-timber forest produced by the scheduled tribes. This is something that was conspicuously missing, and other forest dwellers in forest areas, and bamboo, coconut, because these are, to begin with, certain places this would be the season for these
Yes.
for these plantations, and therefore it is very important that these were also taken care of. Additionally, while banks were included, okay, but however, non-banking financial institutions, NBFCs, including housing finance and microfinance with bare minimum staff. Now, please appreciate this, that if you were to go through the 15th April MHA order, okay, once again, you will find that when there is a talk of government, government offices being open, you would realize that once again it was with a limited staff. Of course, what is the kind of staff that is expected to come in, and then 33% of the lower staff. Here, once again, in the banking institutions, they say that with limited staff. Therefore, either banks come out with a guideline of their own. Alternatively, there is a possibility where there will be a guideline by the MHA that how many people can come in and what are the modalities. Of course, they may come in due course, because this is to come into effect after the 20th of April. Now, of course, having said this, I just wanted to point out one more aspect, that we've up till now, of course, we've discussed the central government measures and whatever measures have been taken, but one very important aspect that came up just yesterday, Arjun, and about 5-6 people for that matter sent me this query about this Delhi government order. Now, of course,
Yes.
we had tried to focus on the central government measures, but I believe this is also something that we must take into account, and we must address this central government, the Delhi government order that has been issued yesterday with respect to the schools, not charging their excessive fee or their quarterly fee for that matter. Now, could you please share the screen with respect to that order?
I'll do that. I have also been receiving a lot of queries from parents as well as from 1 or 2 schools. See, as much as the screen that I'm showing right now is not the Delhi schools related order, it is the 15th of April guidelines.
Yeah.
I will come to the Delhi schools order, and that has generated a lot of queries, and it has also attracted a lot of attention, because it has been reported, and many people have sort of read it in a very partisan manner, and somehow it is floating around that fee waiver has been granted.
Yeah.
So to put it in Hindi, something like fees maaf ho gaye, fees jo hai maaf kar diye gaye, something of that sort. However, it is not in the nature of a fee waiver. I shall come to that. That's a very Delhi specific thing. However, before that, insofar as the 15th of April guidelines are concerned, there are some interesting aspects in the 15th of April guidelines which would be of use to a lot of us. So I would emphasize on those. Now, please remember, all of this is in the context of select permitted activities allowed with effect from 20th of April. When we are talking about select permitted activities allowed with effect from 20th of April, we are talking about it keeping in mind the emphasis points which have been given regarding the containment zones and the hotspots. Now, insofar as the select permitted activities are concerned, there are some very commendable moves which have been done. One of those is insofar as online education is concerned. Point number 9, online teaching, distance learning to be encouraged. All educational, training, coaching institutions, etc. shall remain closed. However, these establishments are expected to maintain the academic schedule through online teaching. Maximum use of Doordarshan and other educational channels may be made for teaching purposes. And then we have the Manrega works to be allowed, public utilities, movement loading. And another interesting aspect is regarding commercial and private establishments, which have been listed in point number 14, will be allowed to operate. And within that, you have print and electronic media, including broadcasting, DTH and cable services, IT and IT-enabled services with up to 50% strength. The contents are self-explanatory, so I won't read out all of those. And then insofar as industries are concerned, they are also within the selected select permitted activities. But I would emphasize that please, when you are reading the 15th of April guidelines, please read it along with the order of 15th of April. Otherwise, it would result in a lot of either unwarranted good news or unwarranted bad news. So therefore, the 15th of April guidelines have to be read along with the 15th of April letter, which is also available on the website of MHA. Let me just share that screen as well. Mayank, is the MHA website visible now?
No. What is visible to me is the 15th of April letter that was written to the Chief Secretary.
Yes. Let me just specifically share the MHA screen, because the number of questions which I got from people who haven't read the 15th of April letter was something which really baffled me. So as of now, it's point number 3, but then don't go by the serial numbering, because more and more things keep getting added. Every time I refresh, some of the other thing definitely comes up. So therefore, this is what I'm referring to. So the guidelines of 15th of April, as modified by the 16th of April order, has to be read keeping in mind this particular letter. Honorable Prime Minister in his address also announced the opening up of select necessary activities from 20th of April. An order enclosing the consolidated revised guidelines in this regard has been issued today, which is the guidelines of 15th of April. With regard to the aforesaid order, the following is emphasized. And then you have 1, 2 and 3. So therefore, it is extremely important to read the 15th of April guidelines, keeping in mind this particular letter of 15th of April. So largely speaking, or rather broadly speaking, these are the measures which have been initiated by the Ministry of Home Affairs in lockdown 2.0. Now, because of these select areas, yes, I remember the Delhi government's schools related order. I'll come to that. But then before that, there is one more aspect regarding the central government, which I would really like to emphasize. Several questions were asked insofar as what are these measures which have been put in place by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Because if you see point number 1, what it says is that the activities mentioned in the consolidated revised guidelines, paras 5 to 20, will not be permitted in containment zones within hotspots demarcated by the state/union territories/district administrations as per guidelines of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. Now, as much as this demarcation will be done by the states, the UTs and the district administrations, but for doing this demarcation, the guidelines have been put in place by the Ministry of Health. Now, those guidelines, you won't, of course, obviously, you won't find it on the website of Ministry of Home Affairs. You will find those on the website of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. It's a 21-page document. I will just show that. Updated containment plan for large outbreaks, novel coronavirus disease.
Could you please share that screen? That way, the other people who are viewing it can also have a look at it.
Yeah. Oh, I thought that it's getting shared. I'll just.
No. Every time.
I got it. It opened within. It was a tab.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah.
Okay, so I think now you all can see this updated containment plan for large outbreaks, novel coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19, and then it's a 21-page document, and it gives a lot of guidelines as to how this entire categorization has to be done. And it appears that there will be some amount of controversy. Hopefully none of this happens, but it appears that insofar as the categorization is done, it could attract some questions in the future, but then we'll have to hold our horses and see. But as it stands, these guidelines are very systematic, and these guidelines have taken into account as many factors as possible, so that the breaking down of the lockdown can be done in a systematic manner, so that normalcy is restored in a phased manner, and at the same time it doesn't end up giving an impetus to spread of the disease. So keeping in mind these two aspects, that is, containing the disease is required, that's non-negotiable, but then in a phased manner, opening up sectors, opening up businesses, so that this transition is smooth without giving an open invitation to further infection, keeping in mind the larger concept of social distancing and the notions of flattening the curve. These guidelines have been operationalized. Now, based on these guidelines, the demarcations will be done by the state and by the central government. By the state governments and by the union territories.
But Arjun, do tell us something. Something very interesting has happened, because on one hand, while everything is being opened in a phased manner, right? And the guidelines have been to the effect that online teaching must be encouraged, and we've even seen it from the latest guidelines, right?
Yes.
Now, something very interesting has come up, which is that a lot of schools,
yes,
right?
Yes.
In in respect of non-payment of fees, okay. What they started doing was that they refused to divulge the username and password details.
Yes.
Right. And I'm sorry, I'm bringing you back to the...
No. This is the opportune moment to come to this, because regarding central government, whatever I wanted to cover, they have been covered, right, including the containment plan issued by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So this is the right time to talk about the Delhi government.
So my understanding is that, the Delhi government order essentially takes care of this, right? But then what has also happened is that once again, because of erroneous reporting with respect to this, a lot of myths have been created around it. Like you aptly pointed out, that a lot of people are even saying that there has been a fee waiver of sorts, right? So could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, I'll do that. So essentially, what Delhi government has done is that the Delhi government has invoked provisions of the Disaster Management Act. In addition to that, it has invoked provisions of the Delhi School Education Act and rules made under that. So these are the laws which the government has used in order to put in place certain directions. Now let us go through the directions as they are. Because as much as it might seem as though I am reading out from the order, but I deliberately want to do that for the simple reason that the document speaks for itself. So especially with so many questions coming in as to things like whether there has been a fee waiver, or that should schools actually shut down, how are schools going to function if you are not going to get money. So a lot of this kind of anxiety has gotten generated because of the kind of reporting that has happened and because of all the news that floats around on WhatsApp. So therefore, instead of even giving my views or paraphrasing it in my own language, which could sort of possibly, you know, somewhere cloud one or two words, I would even avoid that, and I would straight away take you to the Delhi government order. And just for context, before I come to the directions, let me just show you how that thing looks. Facially, this is how it looks. It's issued by the Directorate of Education, Government of NCT of Delhi. It's of 17th of April, that is yesterday, and it's an order. Now, let us see what are the laws that the Delhi government is invoking. Before going to the directions, I'll just indicate this. The Delhi government is invoking the Disaster Management Act. It is invoking the Delhi COVID regulations. We have dealt with it in detail in part 1. The Delhi COVID regulations, which were issued on the 12th of March under the Epidemic Diseases Act. It's the same Delhi COVID regulations which has been invoked once again to pass this order. So based on these two, this particular order has been issued. There is a little bit of a background as to what really motivated that order. I will come to that aspect as well. But before that, let me just show you what are the directions to bust this entire myth that there has been a fee waiver. So let us see exactly what this particular order says and what are the directions which are contained in this order. First of all, it applies to private, unaided, recognized schools of Delhi. That is the scope of this order. It applies to private, unaided, recognized schools of Delhi. Now, therefore, under section 39(1) of the Disaster Management Act, wherein responsibilities have been conferred upon Directorate of Education, being one of the departments of state government, and an exercise of the powers conferred under section 17(3) of Delhi School Education Act 1973, and read with rule 43 of the rules made under that act, and under other enabling provisions of the above acts and rules, or any other all heads/managers of the private, unaided, recognized schools of Delhi are hereby directed as under, and then the directions are there. I am emphasizing on the phrase private, unaided, recognized schools. It does not apply to all and every school, number one. It applies only to private, unaided, recognized schools. Now let us see what the directions are exactly for what they are. Number one, no fee except tuition fee shall be charged from the parents till further orders. So there has not been a fee waiver, which essentially means that fee can be charged only under the heading tuition fee. That is, other than tuition fee, you cannot charge any other fee. Because some problems were happening, because schools have put in place a lot of e-teaching. So they started charging fees under those headings as well. So that cannot be done. Tuition fee can be charged, and that's the only fee which can be charged. And then, you know, back in the day, these kind of things used to happen, that if my parents have been unable to pay the fees, and if I end up in school, then I'm asked to leave the classroom. Now that very thing has translated itself in the E mode as well, in the sense that if my parents have not paid the fees, then they will not be given the username and the password. That's also an aspect which has been deprecated. But before coming to that, let us talk about the quarterly aspect of the fees, which is direction number 2. Heads of the schools shall not demand and collect the tuition fee from the parents/students on quarterly basis. The fee shall be collected on monthly basis only. Every month the fee has to be paid, no concept of a quarterly fees. And then we have point number 3, which is regarding a fee hike. The direction is not to increase any fee in the academic session 2020-2021 till further directions, irrespective of the fact whether or not the school is running on the private land or the land allotted by DDA or other government land owning agency. So it makes no difference whether the school is situated on a DDA land or otherwise, or it's a private land, or it has been allotted by any other government body which allots lands or which owns lands and rents them out for making schools or sells them for making schools. So irrespective of ownership of the land where the school is situated, there shall be no fee hike for the academic session in the academic session 2020-2021 till further direction. So this is not for all times to come. This is not omnibus. It is till further directions, irrespective of the land aspect. Then we have point number 4, which is once again a direction. The schools running on the land allotted by the DDA or other such agency, with the condition to seek approval of Director Education before any fee increase, shall collect the tuition fee on the basis of last fee structure approved by the Director Education or as per fee statement filed by them under 17(3) of the rules during academic session 15-16. Now this is important. The schools running on the land allotted by DDA, with the condition to seek approval of the director before a fee increase, how they shall function? They shall function insofar as fee collection is concerned on the basis of the last fee structure which was approved. Number one, if there is no such last fee structure which has been approved, then as per the fee statement which they have filed under the appropriate rules during academic session 15-16. And then we have the next direction which says that schools shall ensure to provide the access of online education material classes to all students without any discrimination by providing them ID and password immediately to get them online education facility. This goes back to that example. I haven't paid the fees, so I am asked to leave the class in an e-era. If I have not paid the fees, very simple, I am not given the username and password. That is something which cannot be done. Emphasis on the last two words of the second line, without any discrimination. It goes on to the third line, essentially without any discrimination. So just because I have not paid the fees does not mean that the online access shall not be given to me. And then we have the next direction. Heads of the schools shall in no case deny ID and password to those students or parents for getting online access of educational facilities, classes, materials, etc. to those students who are unable to pay the school fee due to financial crisis arising out of closure of business activities in the ongoing lockdown condition. So 5 is general. 5 doesn't talk about non-payment of fees. 5 simply says without any discrimination. 5 is general. Without any discrimination, access shall be provided. 6 is specifically about a situation in which due to closure of business activities, due to financial crisis, if I am not able to pay the fee, then what happens? Even then, I shall not be deprived of the IDs and the passwords. Then the next direction is managing committee of the schools, heads of the schools shall not put extra financial burden by creating any new head of fee. So now that takes us back to point number 1, or rather direction number 1. So direction number 1 says that tuition fee shall be the only heading. Okay. So this particular direction, which I think is point number 7, has to be read along with point number 1. So the only heading will be tuition fee. So you cannot create any new heading under which you can extract more fees. That is your point number 7. Managing committee of the schools / head of the schools shall not put extra financial burden by creating any new head of fee. And then you have the last direction. Schools shall neither stop payment of monthly salary nor reduce the existing total emolument to the teaching and non-teaching staff of their schools in the name of non-availability of funds, and arrange the funds in case of any shortfalls from the society or trust which is running the school. Now, these things are extremely progressive. It takes care of students, it takes care of education, and it also takes care of the interests of the teaching and the non-teaching staff. So on the one hand, schools cannot do anything in order to extract fee, which takes care of students. And on the other hand, schools cannot deprive its own staff, teaching and non-teaching, of their salaries, of their entire emoluments, no part payment, nothing of that sort. Now, these are very progressive measures, undoubtedly. However, the problem, or at least seemingly the problem, lies in the fact that all these things are being done to private, unaided, recognized schools. Now, I am a private school and I am an unaided school. I am not taking any financial aid from the government. And I am situated in my own private land. So therefore, all your 19(1)(g) and running educational institutions, all those things come into play over here, especially 19(1)(g), that how far can I be restricted? What kind of restrictions can actually be put on me? And the reasonableness of these restrictions. That takes us to some very peculiar and embarrassing and rather shameful incidents which the Delhi government had taken note of, which caused the Delhi government to issue an order which is so severe. Now, that takes us to the reasons that motivated this particular order. I'm on the second page of this order. Whereas in such an unfavorable situation, supply out of, it's actually not supply, I think it's simply out of compassion for fellow citizens, most of the charitable trusts, charitable societies, NGOs, social organizations, and even individuals are extending their support voluntarily to deal with the war-like situation arisen due to the spread of COVID-19 in their respective fields. Whereas in such a situation, when all sections of society are contributing their best to help out those in need, it has been brought to the notice of the undersigned that some private unaided schools are not only violating the provisions of Delhi School Education Act and rules made under it, and other guidelines issued by the department in respect of fee regulation, but also the provisions of above referred disaster management and Delhi COVID rules. Delhi COVID regulations, the ones made under the Epidemic Diseases Act, which are presently in force. Whereas some schools have increased the fee in the academic session 2020-2021 without taking cognizance of the prevailing situations in view of the announcement of lockdown by the central government, and despite the enforcement of Disaster Management Act and the Delhi COVID regulations. So, oblivious of the desperate situation in which we are, some private unaided schools, irrespectively as a matter of routine, like they do every year during this time of the year, March, April, round about this time, just like they increase the fee, once again they went on to increase the fee, which was quite an insensitive thing to do. So these were the things which were taken note of, and additionally some other violations were also taken note of, and few more things which have been enlisted. I won't read all of those. This issue of not providing IDs and passwords, this was also something which the Delhi government had taken notice of. So when such kind of rather inhuman activities done by schools insofar as students and parents are concerned, which are quite insensitive, keeping in mind the fact that we are battling a pandemic, because despite the situation, a lot of rather shameful activities were done by a couple of schools. So therefore, the Delhi government went on to pass this particular order, which gives these directions, 7 or 8 odd directions. Yes, they look extremely intrusive because these are private, unaided schools. But keeping in mind the facts and circumstances, it appears to me that these directions are very much warranted. However, they have to be read keeping in mind what exactly this order says. And unfortunately, there has been a lot of misreporting which has happened, mainstream media as well as WhatsApp, etc., social media. And a lot of things have been going on as to the fact that there has been a fee waiver, and that has also generated a lot of anxiety among schools. Some schools had spoken to me. In fact, there have been a couple of schools which have been very liberal, which have been one of those stakeholders who have been contributing their best insofar as battling the pandemic is concerned. They haven't been discriminating insofar as passwords, etc. are concerned. But what happens is that when you have 10 players, out of whom only 2 are being sensitive and the remaining 8 are being insensitive, you definitely need a law so that everyone falls in line. So I think that this order that has been passed would ensure that what is most rational, what is more humane, what is more sensitive is done by persons. It should have ideally been done without this order. But with this order, it is now mandatory to do this, because if you take a look at the last 1 or 2 pages of this order, it makes contravention of these directions punishable under the Disaster Management Act. Failure to comply with above instructions shall invite action not only under the relevant provisions of the Delhi School Education Act and rules and IPC, but also punishment under Section 51B of the Disaster Management Act. Because, mind you, these are directions which have been made under the Disaster Management Act. If you see the first para, then the Disaster Management Act has also been invoked. So, if some school were to deny the password, or if some school were to insist on fee under some new heading, or if some school were to charge some extra fee, or if some school were to deduct the salary of teaching or non-teaching staff, then it would be a punishable offense. So the fact that an order was required to ensure compliance of such basic norms during such testing times is something which is disheartening. But then it's good that this order has been passed, because the ones who are not being sensitive enough shall also fall in line.
Actually, Arjun, very interestingly, this particular order employs 2 strategies. One is, of course, the feeding method. The other one is the stick method, right? in the sense that if you may go to page 4 of this, right? So it also implores private unaided schools because they are into the field of education. Yes, here somewhere. Yes, that yes, attention of all HOSs, managers, etc., is invited to the provisions. Being charitable societies / trust, they are supposed to indulge in charity.
Yes.
So it is not as if it directly goes to that extent. As a matter of fact, it takes care of all those schools who are otherwise doing it properly,
Correct.
but probably may have swayed to a very little extent, right?
Yes.
So maybe it takes care of those aspects, right? And like you aptly pointed out, that certainly this is a welcome. This is a welcome order. It is, of course, slightly disheartening that it had to be done by the government.
Yes.
But then, it's excellent that two strategies are being employed. Generally, you wouldn't find this kind of an order. Usually, it is the directions that are ultimately looked into.
Yes. In fact, it reminds me of something which my principal back in law school used to say, that if there are only good people, then no laws are required. And if there are only bad people, then also no laws are required. Because if everyone is good, you don't need a law to make them mind their business properly. And if everyone is bad, they are not going to comply anyway. But
whenever we see
a blend of good and bad, so therefore law has to be that equalizing factor.
No, in fact, what really amused me was that generally when we go through orders passed by government bodies, of course, we find a little bit of a background to that. Certainly, yes. But then this is the first where a two-pronged strategy is being applied.
Yes.
I believe, that really takes care of whatever we wanted to discuss, Arjun. And it certainly takes care of the questions that had been, that had been asked.
Yes.
And that had been put to us in the past. Now, if there are any further questions from anybody who's attending it right now, we'll be happy to.
And before, I'm sorry to interrupt. Before taking these questions, just one or two things. In fact, after the last lecture, some students, or rather some participants, some of them were students, most of them were students, some were even working professionals. I had said that please take a look at the website of PIB. So therefore, they really were in a dilemma as to what PIB is. In fact, one student even asked me, is it some Public Intelligence Bureau, PIB? I said that no, it is Press Information Bureau. So press releases which the government issues insofar as whatever activities it has done, they all are uploaded on the website of PIB, Press Information Bureau. Of course, this is not for the ones who are right now there over here live, who are watching this live. But then this is insofar as the ones who had watched part 1 either live or otherwise and then asked me this question. Because in fact, it came to me as a bit of a shock that there are so many people who don't know that there is a website of PIB. A very important website, especially in the times
they don't promote themselves all that much, I feel.
Exactly. They don't promote themselves, but then it's important that we all take a look at the website of PIB, Press Information Bureau. And that apart, another important aspect which I would like to highlight, of course, because the focus of this lecture has been the central government's moves, and insofar as Delhi government is concerned, we have only spoken insofar as the schools aspect is concerned because of the kind of anxiety that it generated and the misreporting that has unfortunately been happening. Another aspect is that if you take a look at the website of the Delhi Disaster Management Authority, it would come to you as a bit of a surprise that the Delhi government has separately invoked the Disaster Management Act. So there has been an invocation of the Disaster Management Act by the Delhi government as well. And then various orders have been passed. As much as what is really important is the NDMA's order. But then this was an aspect which I wanted to bring to your notice, that parallelly the Delhi government has also invoked the Disaster Management Act. Because if you see the authorities under the Disaster Management Act, you have the NDMA, which is the nodal agency. In addition to that, you have disaster management authorities at the state level as well, and even at the district level. So the Delhi Disaster Management Authority has parallelly invoked the Disaster Management Act as well. So the interplay is that you have the Epidemic Diseases Act in Delhi, you have the Disaster Management Act in Delhi, and you have the Disaster Management Act in Delhi by virtue of the Delhi government and by virtue of the central government. So there are a lot of parallel regimes that are going on. However, the good thing is that at least till now, it's very commendable that there hasn't been any clash, and all the governments have have been working together in tandem in order to battle this one single problem that we all are faced with at this point in time.
So I believe that kind of leads to the conclusion of this session. I believe we can conclude today's session, Arjun.
Yes, we could. And the ones who
Before I
are
do
live
that,
right now, if they want to ask some questions, then of course
yes, I'm just coming to that. That if all those of you who are attending it, in case you have any questions, we'll be happy to take them up. And in case you do not, then probably you could just put it in the chat by way of a no, and then we could conclude the session for today.
the various orders that I have referred to, I'll just upload those as files in the chat box. I'll do this for the sake of ease and convenience, because the part 1 lecture that we had done, the interaction rather, in that we had used an article which I had written, an article which was in 2 parts, in which various orders and guidelines, etc., were in the form of hyperlinks. Of course, we haven't written an article insofar as this lockdown 2.0 is concerned, at least till now. So initially it was first an article, then an interactive Zoom session.
Maybe this time it will be slightly different.
Exactly. This time I think that after the interaction, probably I'll sit and write an article. But otherwise, just for the sake of ease and convenience, I will quickly upload those. There are not many such documents. So the first document that I have uploaded, that will show the NDMA order, followed by the MHA order, followed by the letters which were issued by the central government to the state governments and to the UTs. That's the first document which I have uploaded. And then the next one which I am uploading consists of the MHA order of 15th of April, along with which all the guidelines are also there. And the unsung hero, if I may say so, the 15th of April letter, which talks about the containment zones, the one which has unfortunately not received as much attention as it should have, because people are reading the 15th of April guidelines as though that's the be all and end all. And then, of course, the 16th of April inclusions, that as well I am uploading over here. And then the containment plan, the 21-page Ministry of Health guidelines.
If you could also put in the Department of Education order by the Delhi government. Yes.
The school order as well I am uploading. And for the benefit of all, I am also uploading the advisory insofar as Zoom is concerned. You all are requested to make these changes in your settings and ensure that Zoom is made as safe as possible till the time we are using Zoom. So yes, these were the documents which I thought it would be prudent to share, so that you all have ready access to these documents. You can download it, you can read it. And of course, please keep a watch on the website of PIB. Lockdown 1.0 was one interactive session. Lockdown 2.0 is one more interactive session. And we really hope that there is no third interactive session. And even if it is there, it won't be regarding a lockdown 3.0. We will see if there are any other interesting developments which take place on or before the 3rd of May, then probably we will do another session in which we will cover those aspects. But otherwise, insofar as this interplay aspect is concerned, the interplay between the Disaster Management Act and the Epidemic Diseases Act, I think that the interplay till date we have been able to cover in part 1 as well as in part 2. Now, as a parting note, I would like to say that please remember that the Delhi COVID regulations are still valid. They are still operating, and they will continue to operate till 2021, till the 11th of March 2021, because it's for a period of 1 year. The various orders which were issued have lapsed, and in fact some orders which were till the 14th of April have automatically been extended till the 3rd of May. That's one more thing which has happened. But please remember that the COVID regulations made by the Delhi government under the Epidemic Diseases Act, they are still valid, they are still operational, and even now you will come across orders which are being and will be issued by the Delhi government by resorting to the Delhi COVID regulations. If you see the Delhi schools order, then even in that order, as much as they have invoked Disaster Management Act, they have invoked the Delhi COVID regulations as well. So therefore, this interplay is something which will make itself visible in every other development which happens with the passage of time. But for now, the glaring instances of the interplay, we hope we have been able to highlight. And part 1 got quite a commendable response, and it was really humbling as well as elating that it got that kind of a response. And let us see what is the kind of interest that part 2 evinces. But otherwise, it has been a great experience doing this. And Mayank, if you would wish to add anything further, then please go ahead.
No. I think you've pretty much covered everything. Thank you, everybody. As I said that lot of support came in, and we are very happy with it. That's all. Thank you.
And that apart, insofar as Lawyers Bit is concerned, between part 1 and part 2, which has happened today, Lawyers Bit has done another 4 or 5 webinars by some very good practitioners, very educative webinars. I would request all of you to take a look at various other webinars. Some of those are, I think, on the Instagram handle, I think Virtual Lawyer, I think that's the name of the handle.
That's right. That's right.
But yes, the webinars which have been done by Lawyers Bit, they are also doing a very commendable job, and the webinars have been quite educative. I thank Lawyers Bit as well as my friend Tarveen, who has recently joined in. He's also here. He's live with us. So thank you very much, and let us keep this as an ongoing process. And please feel free to put in your queries, concerns, criticisms, your views, your clarifications, etc., etc. Please feel free to email to us. Of course, our email addresses are largely in the public domain, but
I'm just putting mine, and
I have just keyed in my email address, and yeah, Mike has put his email address as well. So please feel free to write to us, just in case if there is anything that we have missed, or if there are any queries from part 1 which we couldn't ask. I just saw Ms. Sumita has joined in. She has just joined in before about 2 minutes. So yeah, we will be sharing the recording, and then those of you who happen to see the recording, which will be there on YouTube as well, when you go through the recording, if any further questions arise, if any clarifications, any concerns arise, then please feel free to write to us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I couldn't, log in earlier. I tried, but I couldn't.
Doesn't matter. The recording will be made public. It will be uploaded on maybe by tomorrow or tonight. It will be up on YouTube.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.